There we go, we're recording, it's all good. So we're going to start in an easy cross-legged position today. So I've got my meditation cushion behind me. You might like to use a block or a folded up blanket, anything that feels comfortable under the seat. And with the knees and the legs crossed, Kasana. Obviously you can come into kneeling if that's preferable. We'll just give ourselves a moment to settle in to our bodies and allow for the mind. Oh, I'm just going to mute. There we go. So tonight's session is around the region of the body, the energetic center called Manipura. So we were dealing with the heart center last time I saw you, and we're moving to this region. So you might want to bring your hand to your solar plexus. So the energy center here that we're dealing with is below the breastbone and above the belly button. So it can be quite nice to have that sense of feedback, to be aware of that region of the body. And if you think about what's going on here, just above the solar plexus, you've got the diaphragm, and around the top here you have the rib cage. And just notice how that region feels for you. Sometimes we can hold a little bit of tension around here. Now, the Manipura chakra is an interesting one because it combines the lower, more instinctual chakras and energy centers, the root chakra, the chakra Svadhisthana, which is very much situated in the hips. So it brings together, just going to let someone in, the energy centers. I hope you're still there. Someone's vanished. There you are, Julia. I can still see you. And Ella's just coming in. Super. So you're drawing together the energy centers. Hi, Ella. The energy centers that are the lower energy centers. And then you're drawing together the upper chakras. So we were dealing with the heart chakra, the throat chakra, and the chakra before. So we're thinking about this region of the body, this region of energy. So you might like to bring your hands to the front here. So just feel into your body, allow for that process of your mind just sinking down through the body, set your mind aside. And that automatically happens when you practice this way, when you just allow for your mind to let go. Notice your sitting bones and how they're grounded on either side, underneath the buttocks. Allow for the knees to rest away from the hip points here. And begin to settle into the breath. Relaxing the shoulders, relaxing around the jaw, the TMJ, the facial muscles, the forehead even. For me specifically, there's a lot of frown lines coming on here. Relaxing around the face and beginning to breathe. So in terms of our Manipura chakra, we're going to access that area of the body with some quite strong asana to do with our strength and our willpower, some quite strong standing asana. So if you have two blocks or bricks or anything that you can use to hold on to on a standing postures like Ardha Chandrasana, that can be really helpful. If you don't have anything, don't worry. And we'll be working with Kapalabhati, skull shining breath. Normally I would teach this in the morning, but we're going to teach that. I'm going to touch upon it very briefly this evening, just because it's very relevant to Manipura. Be aware that Kapalabhati is almost, I would say, stronger than having a coffee. So it's very energizing. We're going to be using Nadi Shodhana to bring us back down again. So hopefully you won't lose any sleep tonight. So just coming into the breath and the process of the breath. Be aware of, on the inhalation, we're going to encourage this expansion around the area around the abdomen. So we're not really at the navel, we're just above here. On the exhalation, allow for everything to draw inwards. So on the inhalation, we've got this expansion coming in around the thoracic. On the exhalation, we have everything drawing in. The diaphragm arches, the lung cavity reduces, the air rushes out through the nostrils. Inhaling and exhaling with this efficient diaphragmatic breath. So we've practiced breath awareness a few times. It feels unnatural to breathe in this way. You'll really want to focus on that inhalation being an expansion, the exhalation a contraction. Now this is going to help us with our Kapalabhati. Inhaling and exhaling. Lovely. And with that sense of rootedness through the sitting bones, we're going to begin to grist the mill. Now, you may want to bring your hands to the Manipura chakra region of the body, or you may want to bring the hands onto the knees, onto the thighs. It's really up to you today, whatever feels more comfortable for you. And you're imagining that that lovely spine that roots out of the pelvis is like a pestle and mortar, and you're gristing into the mill, and that action may be felt within the pelvic region, or you may be feeling it all the way up through the spine. And those circles and spirals that we access down from Muladhara chakra, down from the root all the way up, can be as large as you want them to be, or they can be very subtle, very gentle. Maybe you feel very stiff. When I was practicing earlier, I felt incredibly stiff. I really could tell that my body had been holding so much this week. And then we're going to come back in the opposite direction. And the amazing thing was that when I practiced afterwards, I felt like a new woman. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I really felt so much better. So spiraling through. Lovely. And then coming back into the center. We're going to inhale, opening, expanding around that rib cage. And exhale to spiral and rotate, remembering that that lumbar is fairly fixed. It's not designed for rotation. Inhaling up through the spine, exhaling and allowing for that rotation to come about. The gaze of the drishti may just follow and lead over the shoulder. Inhaling, allow for that movement to come in. Exhaling, sense of contraction. Inhale, lifting up through the arms, and exhale to the other side. Inhale, finding the length in the spine. Exhale to rotate. Inhale, allow for the ribcage to open and expand. Exhale, sense of contraction, maybe some rotation comes in. Inhale, reach, and exhale. We're going to come into a forward fold, so it's up to you. So if you want to come into little sphinx arms, or you want to bring your hands down in front of you, or if you gently want to come bring your forehead down even, you can do whatever feels comfortable for you. Indeed, if your hips will allow for it, maybe you want to bring your forehead down. Breathing into the back line of the body, padding through the hands here. And we're going to inhale the arms up overhead. This time the left arm comes down alongside the hips. We're going to reach and lengthen along that side seam of the body with the sitting bone grounded, and pivot over. So we're thinking about a process of lengthening. There's a contraction taking place along the left side, indeed, if you're using the right arm here. Keep the sit bone down, and maybe spiral the breastbone up towards the ceiling. Feeling that lovely long line underneath the armpits, along serratus anterior. And maybe the drishti, maybe your gaze comes up towards the ceiling. Breathing, of course, just be very aware if you're holding your breath at any point. Come back to the breath. Inhaling. Bring that hand back down, exhale. Inhale, up, reaching, lengthening from sit bone up to the middle finger, dropping the opposite arm, coming to the other side. So lateral side extension, reaching up through the middle finger here, and spiraling that breastbone up towards the ceiling, so the drishti follows. Just be aware of any crunching in the shoulder. If the shoulder's crunching, see if you can drop and relax the shoulder back down. Inhaling, opening up through the ribcage. Exhaling, allowing for everything to draw inwards. Inhale, bring that arm back down. Exhale, drop the left ear to the left shoulder. Coming into your neck, lengthening, opening up the sternomastoid. And we're just briefly touching base with this region of the body. It's so key in our practice. Roll the chin towards the breastbone. Come over to the other side. Keep those shoulders down. Noticing what's taking place. Are you salivating? Do you have a dry mouth? How does this feel on this side? and then draw the chin back in and bring the gaze up through the middle. So this is where we're going to work into Kapalabhati. It may be the case that you might not have practiced Kapalabhati before. I would really recommend bringing a hand to the abdominal region. Now, the Kapalabhati skull shining breath involves quite a strong forced exhale. The inhalation is a natural relaxation of the belly, the diaphragm draws down. Contraindications here are high blood pressure, eye issues, glaucoma, things like that. If you're someone who comes into anxiety and you have a lot of tension in your shoulders, it's likely this might preempt or bring a little bit of anxiety in. If that's the case, I want you to come back to the breath and let go of Kapalabhati. So I'm going to show you first of all what this might look like. We're going to inhale, exhale very naturally. I'm going to do 10 rounds just to show you what it looks like. Breathing through the nostrils. Inhaling. The forced exhalation comes about with a pumping action through the abdomen. After the 10th one, allow for my belly to expand. The air rushes in. Let go of Kapalabhati. Notice how it feels. We're going to do 3 rounds of 10. If you want to come into 20 rounds and you're able to do that, that's great. But just observe how this feels. If tension comes in, if there's a sense of anxiety, or if you feel like you're hyperventilating. If you're hyperventilating, it's because you're not able to release the diaphragm and relax the diaphragm after the forced exhalation. Obviously, pregnancy is a contraindication here. If you're menstruating, you should be really careful. I have adenomyosis and I'm in that painful part of my cycle at the moment, so I have to be really careful. But because I've been doing belly breathing prior, that seems to release the pain. So we'll come into this together. 3 rounds of 10. And just flag up if anything comes up for you specifically. So inhaling through the nostrils, you can close the eyes, relax here. Exhaling. After the next inhalation, we're going to do a short, sharp burst exhalation with the inhalation coming in naturally. Rounds, 10 of those. Give yourself a moment to breathe naturally. If this isn't making a lot of sense for you, you might want to come forwards into an all fours action. I will do all fours for this one so you can see the movement. Inhaling, exhale. Once you've done your 10, observe the breath. Notice how that feels, whether you feel the skull shining breath coming in, clearing the frontal lobes. We're going to do 1 more round. Inhaling, exhale. And release after your 10. Now at first it can be quite difficult to get this pumping action to take place around the abdominal region. So just notice how that sits within your body. There is another pranayama practice called bellows breath, which is a forced exhalation and forced inhalation. So it might be the case that you came into that, or it might be the case that you were inhaling, exhaling, 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 and not inhaling until the 10 had finished, in which case you might feel a bit, so just give yourself a moment to adjust to whatever felt sense you have of that pranayama practice. And in theory with Kapalabhati, obviously you're utilizing the abdominal region, you're bringing in a sense of energy, which is really great at the beginning of the year when you feel sluggish. It's a great one for the morning instead of a coffee, for instance. And it does bring a sense of clarity, perhaps. So we're going to come into Nadishthadana. That's to bring the energy down again through the central channel called Sushumna. So we're going to use our fingers, our digits, bring the left hand to support the elbow, And we're going to close and open the nostrils. So hopefully the nostrils are clear. Get a tissue if there's a bit of blockage and the mucus needs to be removed. We're going to begin through breathing through the left nostril. The left nostril is generally more calming. The right nostril, connected to the sun, is more energizing. I'm going to inhale and exhale through the left. Noticing how clear that nostril is. And then we're going to close the left nostril and open up the right. Exhaling, inhaling. Swap the fingers and come over to the other side. Inhaling. And then we swap the digits to move into Nadi Shodhana. Exhale. Inhaling through that same nostril. And exhaling through the opposing nostril. I just had to check that you were actually doing it there. Inhaling and exhaling. You inhale through that same nostril. Take your attention up to your third eye, Ansha chakra. Swap the digits. Exhale. Inhaling through that side. Attention up here on the forehead. Exhale. Inhale. Swapping the digits and exhale. Inhale. Swap your digits. Exhale. I'd like you to do 10 rounds of this, or 10 of these. Inhale and exhalation being 1. Exhaling through the opposing digit. Inhaling through that same nostril. Exhale. Maybe there's a sense of freshness here after Kapalabhati. Maybe not. There's no right or wrong answer to how you feel with these pranayama practices. Inhaling and exhaling. And when you've finished your 10 rounds, I recommend finishing on the left side, the calming nostril connected to the hemispheres of the brain here. Exhaling, and just notice how you feel, what's occurring here, energetically what's taking place for you, what words come up. So we're going to bring the hands behind the body now, feeling into the wrists and the fingers, and just lift up the pelvis off the ground. Okay, we're going to remove whatever that we were sat on, and we're going to come onto our backs. So I'm just going to move some of the props I've got here. If you've got a brick and you want to use a brick for your hammocking Uddiyana Bandha that we're going to do in a semi-supine, it might be useful to have that brick in between the legs. So we're going to be working with an upward abdominal lock. And again, we're looking at the abdominal region here. So feet together, knees hip width apart. Take your socks off if you can, if you're not too cold. And bring your hands to your navel region. So we're going to come into what we call Dvipadapitham, rolling the pelvis off the ground and coming into our little bridge pose. But when we come into this, I want you to have a soft sense of hammocking area around the front of the abdominal region. So there's no tension taking place and you're not lifting up too hard. Can you relax? So you've got this lovely little hammock around that region of the body. So I'm going to take you through Uddiyana Bandha. So this is a lock that is used around the abdominal region, which utilises basically the diaphragm and the rib cage. With your Uddiyana Bandha, we're going to inhale, allowing for the belly to open and billow. Exhale, we've got that lovely sort of sense of drawing inwards, that sense of coming into the main, into that midline, as it were. We're going to inhale. Soft sense of hammocking, and exhale. Now with that process in mind, I want you to inhale and then exhale, exhaling all of the breath out of the body. And at the end of the exhalation, I'd like you to expand the rib cage and notice what takes place here. You may get a sense of suctioning up into the rib cage. It may be palpable, maybe not. And then let go. Inhaling and exhaling freely. So at the end of the exhalation, all the air rushes out of the lungs, and you've got this lifting upwards, this opening expansion around the rib cage, and there's a drawing up into the rib cage area. And when you feel like you absolutely must take a breath, you then release and let go. Okay, so let's do that one more time. Breathing freely. Allowing on the inhalation for the belly to expand. On the exhalation, that lovely hammocking, the air rushes out. There's a sense of drawing up the navel, expanding the rib cage, and almost this kind of suctioning, that lifting action of the diaphragm up into the rib cage. And then when you absolutely must take a breath, you let the air rush in. And then we're going to roll the vertebra back down through the spine here. Lovely. Using the arms this time, we're going to come into a more traditional bridge. So bring the arms up overhead, drawing the pelvis up towards the ceiling. And if the arms come above the head, great. Otherwise, just hold them wherever they need to be. And then softly roll all the way back down through the spine. Let's do 5 of these. Inhaling, lifting the arms up overhead, rolling up through each of those vertebrae, mobilizing the spine, and exhale, softly bending the elbows and rolling back down. Inhaling, maybe extending the inhalation, the exhalation here. Coming into a pattern of breath called Samavriti, Sama meaning equal. Exhaling and rolling all the way back down the spine. And coming up one more time. Inhaling. Just noticing how the spine feels. You may want to lift the toes off the ground as you roll back down. Now you have the opportunity here to come into Setu Bandhasana, which is our more held, more solid type bridge. So we roll the pelvis off the ground, but the hands come underneath the buttocks and the shoulders almost roll in towards one another. So you're often talking about zipping the shoulder blades together. You're zipping the shoulder blades together to create this little lovely ledge for your bridge. And I've forgotten for now what kind of bridge this would be. And you're holding Setu Bandhasana, allowing for the neck to feel nice and long. And indeed, if you were fairly stable around the pelvic region, you could get hold of a brick and pop the brick underneath the tailbone, if you had one, or a bolster, or a very large book. Something that creates some height, and then you can release the pelvis. So that is an option for you. And indeed, if you have a brick, you may want to be on the lower version, or you want to lift up onto the higher. You can play with that. Otherwise, just use the strength of the shoulder blades. You've created this lovely engineering for your body to lift up into Setu Bandhasana. Lots of options there. So you can remove the brick and then roll the spine back down, drawing the knees in towards the belly, the abdominal region, coming into a tiny ball, wrapping the arms around the knees, rocking from side to side. So we're going to take this into a spinal rotation here. So dropping the head back down, we're going to drop the knees over to the left side and open the arms out into a T shape, or indeed cactus, where you bend the elbows. Keep the shoulder blades grounded as you drop the knees down and over. Now the knees might be further away from the abdominal region, or they may be tucked in like a fetus. Just allow for the knees to splay if they want to, and then bring the gaze over to the right side. So you're creating this lovely S shape along the spine, Jatara Parivriti. If the neck is comfortable to do so, you keep that gaze over on the opposite side to the knees. Inhaling, allowing for the ribcage to open and expand. Exhale, everything draws inwards. Bringing the gaze back through center. I'm going to roll the knees up through the middle and come over to the other side. Rolling those knees over to wherever they come to. moving the props out of the way if they find themselves in the way, and then get the gaze, bring the gaze, the drishti over to the other side, come into your Jatara Paravriti on the opposing side. So you've got again this lovely S shape. Keep the shoulder blade grounded. It's always going to want to lift, releasing into this shape. Inhaling into the rib cage, let that expansion come in. Exhale and release. Bring the gaze back through the center, roll the knees in towards the abdominal region, and we're going to begin to rock and roll, rocking along the spine and just feeling along that area, taking notes for your inversion later. And rather than coming into tabletop, we're actually coming into Ardha Matsyendrasana. So finding yourself here, we're going to fold one leg in underneath the hip point and the other foot comes over the thigh. Ensure that your sitting bones are both grounded. And if you feel lopsided for whatever reason, get hold of something to create some padding to lift yourself up. And it just creates more space for the limbs to move where they need to move to. Now, in terms of the lower leg, if it's more comfortable, you can have that straight in front of you, still Ardha Matsyendrasana. If the foot will not ground itself completely, bring it in front of the hip point. So you have lots of options in your Ardha Matsyendrasana to make sure those sit bones are grounded. You want to feel like you can lift up through the spine, and then on the exhalation, rotate into the upper leg. So a closed twist, first of all. Inhaling, lifting up through the breastbone. Exhale, relax the shoulders, gazing over, behind, and indeed you can have the arm wrapped around the knee, or you can pivot to the outside of the knee, so sort of wave, and the back hand just comes to wherever it needs to come to. Inhaling into belly, soft belly breathing. Exhale. Inhale, we're going to come through the midline now, come into an open twist. On the opposite side, you may want to wrap the hand around the outside of the knee or bring the elbow to the inside here. Inhaling up through the spine. Exhale to rotate. And you get this lovely squeezing action around the abdominal region. And it's said to help the blood, fresh blood, to flow into the abdominal organs. Inhaling, allow for the rib cage to expand. Exhale. That sense of drawing inwards. Maybe a little bit more rotation. Inhale, coming through the center, we're going to swap the legs over. So you may want to unravel the top one, coming to the side here, swivel over to the other side, and then fold your leg over. Okay, so only because I do this all the time is it straightforward. Sometimes it can be a bit of a case of overthinking what the legs are doing and wondering what's going on. So you've got this option to lengthen that leg out in front, if that's preferable, or you have it bent underneath the hip point. The foot on the other side as it comes over the thigh is fully grounded. We're going to inhale up through the sitting bones, exhale, close twist, wrapping the hand around that knee or bending the elbow. And that just gives you an extra bit of feedback if you want more rotation. Inhale up through the spine, exhale and rotate. Inhale, allow for the belly to billow. Exhale. Inhale. We're going to come through our open twist, finding our hand either around the knee or in the inside of the knee here, waving to our imaginary friend that's not in the room. Inhaling up through the spine, exhaling to rotate, allowing for that gaze, that drishti to just follow. Inhale, soften around the belly. Exhale. Inhale through the center now. Bring that foot over. We're going to swap it to the other side and then swivel onto tabletop. So I'm going to move my block and come onto tabletop now. Spreading through the fingers nice and wide. Now, how do your wrists feel today? Spread those fingers more than you ever think you need to. Wake them up. And then just spiral the fingers to the outer reaches of the mat, moving from side to side, waking up the tiny wrists that get so tight with RSI, spiraling the fingers towards the knees, rocking from forwards to backwards. Be careful here that you don't over push, and then spiral the fingers into the inside reaches here from side to side. And then if you want to, we can flip the hands upside down, feeling into the tops of the hands. Lovely. And then bring yourself back onto your hips. Now, there's no easy way to do this. We've worked into the wrists. Just bring the feet in front of you so you're sat on your sit bones. And the feet are about 2 foot to maybe 1 foot in front of the hip points. Now we're going to bring the hands behind us to come into reverse tabletop. How are the wrists here? Probably the most difficult thing here is the wrists initially. So we're going to take our strength into our feet and our legs here, lift up the pelvis, protect the lumbar, and open up around the front of the collarbone into reverse tabletop. A thrusting action, gazing down at the knees. No need to drop the head here. Keep that neck nice and long. Maybe spread the toes off the floor. Now, how does this feel? Remember to breathe. Pretty strong in the shoulders, perhaps, or the arms. The glutes will automatically be working to hold the pelvis up, and then breathe yourself back down. This time we're going to lengthen the legs. So we've got these lovely long legs in front of us. We're going to do the same thing, spreading through the fingers. The fingers are pointing down towards the feet, and lift, reverse plank. You could explore what's preferable, either coming into a dorsiflexion with the toes spread, or you can point the toes. It's up to you. Gazing down at the feet here. Difficult in a way, potentially less strenuous around the shoulders, but harder to lift the hips in this position, maybe. Breathing, remember to breathe. And roll and release. We're going to creep ourselves forwards into Paschimottanasana just to ease out anything that took place within the spine and the lumbar. Just folding ourselves forwards, draping over the thighs. Good old Paschimottanasana. Lovely. Breathing into the back of the body. Pretty strong coming into this in terms of the hamstrings, but just utilize it in terms of spine opening. Lovely. And then from this position, we're going to transition into our all fours again. So you have an option. You can roll when you feel extravagant, or you can just bring the knees to the side and come into all fours. It's up to you. So from this position, if you've got space and there's no futon behind you, you can roll and come forwards. But basically we're ending up in our all fours position, spreading those fingers nice and wide, flattening the tops of the feet down on the mat. We're going to come into bird dog. Now with that sense of Manipura, your center point, your navel center here, that's where we were going to radiate from. So as we lift our right hand and left leg in bird dog, we're thinking about that being our center point. As we extend out through the extremities, spreading the toes, that middle finger, breathing, of course. Inhaling across the body, exhale, and retrieve your limbs, come to the other side. Inhaling across the midline, spreading through the feet here. Imagining you've got a lovely long line between the big toe and the middle finger across the body. And exhale. Come to the other side. Inhaling. Breathing, reaching, lengthening, adjusting, balancing, focusing your attention. And release. And coming to the other side again. Now, if you feel anything's occurring within the lumbar, keep your tailbone grounded. So the position of the pelvis changes. It will change things hugely to draw the tailbone down towards the ground. And then Bring limbs back down. I'm going to tuck the toes under and lift the pelvis up towards the ceiling to come into downward dog. Dropping the forehead down, dropping the crown, coming into a comfortable downward dog. Allow for the head to really dangle here so you can release, and you can bend the knees as much as you need to allow for the spine to lengthen. So from this position, we're going to lift up one leg. So we're going to lift up the right leg into three-legged dog. So the pelvis is stable and we're not really flaring anything. Three-legged dog. Breathing that heel up towards the ceiling. You've got your three-legged dog. Now we're going to take the three-legged dog into scorpion, which changes the position of the pelvis. We bend the knee and allow for the pelvis to open so the heel sinks over to the side and the gaze goes under the armpit of the side where the knee is bent. Scorpion. Brilliant. And then from that position, we're going to draw the knee in towards the nose, bringing the knee in towards the face. And then we're going to inhale the leg back up into three-legged dog. Exhale the knee in towards the elbow on the same side. There's a lot of strength being built here. Inhale, the leg comes up. Now we're going to come across the body to the opposing elbow and hold that. Inhale, reach that leg up towards the ceiling. This time we're going to draw the knee in towards the nose, hold it if you like, and then scoop that foot forwards in between the frame and the front of the mat. Drop the back knee, flatten the top of the foot, and you're in your low lunge. Allow for the pelvis to sink. Then we're going to draw the hips back, come into half Hanuman, opening up the back of the leg at the front here, into the hamstrings, and breathe in between those points. So coming into a low lunge. The fingers are in a tripod. Exhale into Hanuman. Inhale. And exhale, rolling up onto the heels, the feet, the toes rather, spread up towards the ceiling. The next time we come forwards, we're going to take the hands, they're grounded down to the mat, and take the back knee off the ground into high lunge. Scoop that foot back into your downward dog. Take a few moments here in your downward dog to bend the knees. I'm just going to come down because I'm on the verge of having a coffee fit. So you're in your downward dog. We're going to come to the other side. So three-legged dog on the left side now. Thinking about lifting up the heel. And you've got the pelvis stable. Now from three-legged dog into scorpion, you bend the knee. Allow for the foot to drop over to the side and you gaze under the armpits. So you've opened and stacked the hips here. Feels very different, quite freeing. From this point, we're going to exhale the knee towards the nose. And inhale back into three-legged dog. Exhale, just do what you can here. If it's not about energy for you tonight, take it easy. Inhale, heel comes up towards the ceiling. Exhale, crossing over the midline, bringing the knee towards the opposing elbow before you come up into your three-legged dog. Inhaling. And we exhale the knee towards the nose, hold, and scoop the foot in between the frame of the hands at the front of the mat, dropping the back knee, flattening the back foot, coming into low lunge, tripoding the fingers to support yourself, and then you can roll into your Hanuman. Half Hanuman, Hanuman being the monkey king, and then roll forwards, moving with the breath, opening up the back of the legs, the hamstrings, the toes flare. Exhale, coming forwards. I'm going to tuck the toes under, lift up that back leg so you're in your high lunge, flatten the feet by whatever means, and then scoop the foot back. Now we're coming into plank. So we're going to transition. When you're in your plank, spread those fingers nice and wide so you feel nice and strong. You can bring the knees down if you like. We can either knees, chest, chin, so come down to the floor, or come down through chaturanga, bending the elbows. Both ways involve a certain amount of strength. Keep the pelvis up off the ground as you scoop forwards into crocodile. Bring the hands in front of the face, rocking out the hips. Release and let go. Sink the face onto that little cushion you've created for yourself, and then swap the gaze over to the other side. So we're wiggling and releasing here. So we're going to come into locust. Often we come into cobra. If you want to come into your baby cobra, feel free to do so. With locust, we're going to lengthen. Think about the lengthening process along the left side first of all. So focusing on the legs, I want you to lengthen out through the leg, through the heel, and there'll be a lifting action, and then release and let go, wiggle the hips. We're going to come to the right side, lengthening across through the right side body here, and there's a lifting action that takes place and release. And we're going to allow for the hands to come down alongside the hip points, little tripods take place. We're going to think about lengthening again, but we're going to bring the front of the body into play as well as the legs. We're lengthening across the back of line of the body, and that midpoint is going to be central, very much around the front of the abdomen, the Manipura. You may feel it around the front of the pelvis, and you come into a spinal extension movement, thinking about the shoulder blades zipping together, gazing down at the mat, locust, and breathe. And then release and let go. Take the hands underneath the shoulders, draw the hips back, come into your balasana, child's pose. Breathing into the back line of the body. I'm just going to creep myself onto the mat as I seem to be moving off the mat, traveling, breathing into the back line of the body. Tuck the toes under. We're going to transition through downward dog, drawing the hips up towards the ceiling, relax the head. And then pad the feet to the front of the mat to come into your Uttanasana, forward fold. Bend the knees if you like to allow for the unraveling and furling to come out through the spine. So you've got the weight through the legs, nice and strong and sturdy, supported, with a sense of flopping coming through the torso and the forehead and the crown. Taking the weight through the legs, we're going to dangle chimpanzee style, bending the knees, drawing the pelvis forwards as we come up into a standing Tadasana. And as you come up into your Tadasana, see if you can maintain a sense of equanimity through both sides, where the weight is grounding down through the feet, and you come to the front of the mat. So just notice how you're feeling in the thighs and the knees, and if you're clenching at all, relax the clenching around the knees. Relax and soften around the front of the pelvis, around the front of the abdomen especially. And we're going to step back through the left foot first of all into Virabhadrasana 1. So we're going to step back, conservative step back into Virabhadrasana 1. Okay, so you may want the heel off the ground, or you may want to spiral the heel into the midline about 30 degrees. But the main thing here is you've got the front of the hip points moving forwards. Virabhadrasana 1, lift up through the arms and feel that lovely supportive strength through the back leg, the bend at the front of the knee. Relax the shoulders, breathe. Now, if you've got some bricks and blocks and whatnot, this is a good time to bring them in front of you. So I've got 2 cork bricks. You may want to use a block and then 2 bricks on top, because it's really nice to have that support, or you can go sort of freestyle without any support. It's up to you. So from your Virabhadrasana 1, we're going to transition to Virabhadrasana 3. So we're going to pivot forwards into that front leg and come into your aeroplane, as it were. So you're getting hold of the bricks in front of you to position the pelvis so it's square and lift up through the back leg. And it might be the case that you're just focusing on balancing. You may feel like you can extend out through that back leg, but we've got the bricks to support us. Now, if you don't have any bricks, you might want to just bring the hands alongside the body to shorten the lever. And I'm going to take the foot back and lift up into Virabhadrasana 1. Lovely. Now this time we're going to take this into Virabhadrasana 2. So we're going to drop the heel in and allow for the pelvis to move now. So Virabhadrasana 1, you've got these headlamps, which are the hip points. Virabhadrasana 2, you allow for the pelvis to move with that back foot. Be cautious you're not coming into internal rotation of the knee. You want that front leg to be really integral to the position. You want to feel like you can bend through that knee and be really nice and strong. Lift up through both arms and center yourself. If the shoulders are feeling tight, you can lift the palms up towards the ceiling and roll the shoulders down. Wake up that back hand. It often wants to go to sleep because it's behind. We often sort of ignore it. And come into your Virabhadrasana 2. From this position, we're coming into humble warrior. So lifting up through the front arm, we're going to take the back hand to just stroke down alongside the straightened leg and open up through the side seam of the body. Try not to dump any weight into the back here. Breathing, bending through the front knee. Lovely. And then spiraling through. We're going to come back into Virabhadrasana 2. Looking down through that front finger. We're now going to take off into Ardha Chandrasana, half moon. So let's see how this feels. You want to feel like you can put lots of weight into that front leg. And we're going to pivot forwards as though we're coming into Virabhadrasana 3. And we allow for our hand to come down to the bricks. If you don't have bricks, the hand comes down to wherever it comes down to. And that back foot comes off the ground. Now, if you're feeling really comfortable with this balance, there's a lot going on here, you can gaze up towards the ceiling. I'm not taking that risk today for myself personally. Just play and explore how it feels before bringing the foot back down. We'll try that again. I'm very wobbly today. From Virabhadrasana 2, take the weight into that front leg and come into your standing pose. Just notice how your balance is and breathe and take the weight back. Try not to fall like I almost did, and come back to your Virabhadrasana 2. So we're going to come to the other side. So step forwards into Tadasana and simply step back into Virabhadrasana 1. So we've got headlamps at the front and you can bring the heel off the ground or bring it down. It's really up to you. If you feel like you're on a tightrope, sometimes it can feel really off balance. You just widen the stance outwards rather than lengthways, and it makes it more stable. So you've got Virabhadrasana 1, and you can feel pretty sturdy here, and the leg can be further in, it can be a short stance, or it can be a longer stance. We're going to take this into Virabhadrasana 3. If you've got bricks, you can get hold of them, or you bring the hands alongside the body and sort of aeroplane it. It's called aeroplane for kids yoga. So if you've got the bricks, you can get hold of the bricks. But if you want to do aeroplane, you can do aeroplane. And you're just focusing on a sense of balance. You can bend the knee and you breathe. And then take the foot back and come into Virabhadrasana 1. We're now going to spiral that back leg out slightly to come into Virabhadrasana 2 and bring the hands alongside the body. Feel like you can take the weight into the front knee. So that's the really integral bit. Wake up the hands, lift the palms up towards the ceiling, and then roll the shoulders down. Waking up that back hand is really crucial before we pivot into humble warrior or reverse warrior, stroking the hand down alongside the leg, lifting up through the side seam of the body. The knee will want to straighten, keep it bent. And then spiral through Virabhadrasana 2. Bring the hands back in line. Just notice if your torso comes out of alignment. From this point, we're going to play with the Ardha Chandrasana on this side. Don't worry about how it goes, just play. So we're going to spiral forwards, bring the hands to your bricks. If you don't have bricks, your imaginary bricks, or indeed the ground, and then bring the foot off the ground, spiraling and stacking the hips like you were in Scorpion. Bring the hand up towards the ceiling. So you come into a rather strange position, and your point of contact involves one foot, one hand. And see how your balance feels today. Just play. A little bit of exploration before bringing the foot back down. Lovely, I can see you're in it, guys. Exit in a very slow and controlled fashion. Let's try that one more time. Spiraling forwards, get hold of the bricks if you've got them, fantastic. Lifting that foot off the ground, bring the hand up towards the ceiling. The dorsiflexion of the foot is helpful because we're not doing ballet or gymnastics. And it's about the energy running down through the feet. And then maybe if you're feeling really confident, you can bring the gaze up towards the ceiling, but I'm definitely not doing that today. Bending the knee and coming back into your Virabhadrasana 2. So just allow yourself to settle. We're going to bring the foot forwards now. Come up onto tippy toes and transition to the ground. So well done. You did very well with the standing postures. We're going to roll down onto your sit bones, come into Navasana with bent knees. Boat. Lifting up through the torso, breathing into belly, drawing the knees in, inhaling and explore straightening the legs, perhaps. Exhale, inhale. How does it feel to straighten the legs? I get really shaky, so I know that that's quite pushing my energy levels. I prefer to flow. But if you want to hold your Navasana and you're strong, you could do that. Lifting up through the torso. And from this position, you might want to curve the spine. We'll come into our rolling and come into an inversion. If you love rolling and it feels really good, maybe come into pose of tranquility. Just be aware of the contraindications, which are high blood pressure, any migraines, glaucoma, that sort of thing. Otherwise, we can roll and roll the pelvis up and over. Now remember, a pose of tranquility is a soft inversion. The hands come behind the pelvis and you can really sink into it. There's no straight linear lines here. There's no rigidity, it's a softening. I'm going to roll out of it, just to have a quick look. Obviously, you can come into Viparita Karini, legs up the wall as well. But it looks like you're absolutely happy and fine in pose of tranquility. So allow for yourself to soften. You may feel that lovely point of balance around the back of the spine there, around the thoracic. Just soften into that space. And then we're going to come out of that pose of tranquility with ease, with a sense of gentle unraveling, and bring yourself down and out. The knees dropping down and allowing for the hands to come alongside the body. We just bring the knees over to one side and to the other. This gentle spinal rotation before we make our way into Shavasana, our final relaxation, corpse pose. Extending out through the limbs, using any support that we need, bringing the arms out to the sides, coming into starfish if that suits you. And I'm going to come up and have a look. Make any adjustments you need to, especially for your lumbar. And if your chin is pointing up towards the ceiling, you may want to adjust that, either bringing some support behind the head to change the alignment. Maybe to bring the hands to the base of the neck, stroke up past the ridge of the skull where it meets the neck. Make that adjustment, drawing the chin in and release and let go. So in tonight's session, we've covered a few aspects of things. Kapalabhati, Nadi, that link with Manipura, the strengthening navel radiation aspects within Sana, within our posture work. The Uddiyana Bandha, which is our abdominal lock, which is that flying up that we worked with in our hammocking Dvipadapitham. There was a lot in that session, and it's one of those things where you could easily have workshops over all of those aspects, but I'm kind of going super fast across lots of complicated things in many ways. So in your relaxation, just release, let go, allow for the consolidation of that practice to take place. And just allow for whatever there is to percolate throughout your body. When we think about this energy center, the sense of will, determination, the power center of our body, which is linked to the digestive processes. I'd like to sort of offer a sense of what that is, as not being forceful, but rather being a more soft sense of determination in terms of our power centers. And if you're interested in archetypes and Jung, there's lots that you can read into in terms of the chakras, but this is our center of individuation. We need to have the energy to step out of the familiar and expected and confront the challenge of uncertainty. So Hegel says, thus to be independent of public opinion is the first formal condition of achieving anything great. So the dynamics of power within the chakra 3, Manipura, is built upon the sense of duality, opposing polarities. And the emphasis is in combination and synergy of aspects rather than separation and struggle. So whether the practice of working with Manipura takes you into more philosophical realms, or maybe there's a tangible sense of one of those practices working for you in a way, whatever it is for you, you can take what you like from the sort of multiplicity of yoga. But I'm going to offer you, and feel free to allow for my words to just run over you here as you settle into your relaxation. I'm going to offer you a quote from Chogyam Trungpa, one of the Tibetan Buddhists, and he got into a lot of trouble latterly. He's linked to Pema Chodron and lots of the American, Canadian practitioners at the moment, and maybe for the past 15 years. He really emphasized this idea of crazy wisdom, which I think the Dalai Lama sort of poo-pooed and said there's no such thing as crazy wisdom, but I think I'm slightly for this idea of the irrational wisdom that comes with some crazy acts. So his quote is, "To be a warrior is to learn to be genuine in every moment of your life." So this sense of strength and warrior spirit that we try and kindle within us, within yoga, is really about being genuine and authentic, rather than trying to be something or someone you're not. So it's about understanding what you are going through in every single present moment that arises. And also realizing that there's a transience in the present moment, so it's ever changing. So it's a bit complicated, but I'm trying to enhance that warrior spirit. It's very much connected with a sense of empowerment, of wholeness, whether someone believes in, moves towards feeling like the victim. There's a quote by Rollo May, which is an interesting one. "No human being can stand the perpetually numbing experience of his own powerlessness." It's a kind of important one, considering the world's affairs at the moment. No human being can stand the perpetually numbing experience of his own powerlessness. So working with our center of power, Manipura, can be helpful to help us realize that we're not powerless, that we do have the potential for making effects and change happen. So let go of any thoughts, feelings, notions. Coming back to the breath, coming back to the weight of the body as it rests here on the earth beneath you. At the end of the following sound, I invite you in your own time to roll over onto your right hand side in fetal position, making perhaps a little cushion for the side of the face. And again, at the end of the following vibration and sound, I invite you to come drawing yourself upright with the weight through the hands into an easy cross-legged position, maybe closing the eyes. And to close the practice, perhaps bring the hands together to create some heat, rubbing the hands together. If that works for you, to create that sense of warmth between the hands, going into the palming action, rolling through the palms to the inner and the outer. And then bring those hands together through the midline, down through Anjna chakra, the Shuddhi chakra, and Heart chakra, Manipura chakra, bowing in acknowledgement of one another and the space in between. Namaste. Thank you very much.